The countdown continues to the 2025 Carolina BBQ Festival, April 4th and 5th in Charlotte. And this year's event has some real new twists to it, including a few new pit masters like Ben Hooper. He's the pit master at Ben's Backdraft Barbecue. And while he may be new to the Carolina Barbecue Festival, of course, he's not new to the Low and Slow Barbecue Show. We're excited to welcome him back for the third time today. Ben, thanks so much for returning to the Low and Slow Barbecue Show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. And we're going to find out more about your business and life in Western North Carolina since Hurricane Helene. I want to talk about your experience as a barbecue festival attendee and now what it's like to be a pit master at the big event. Maybe even find out what you're going to cook at the festival and how you're going to prepare it. Before we get all to that, a quick reminder to everybody joining us for the first time and a reminder for our returning listeners, you can get more of the Low and Slow Barbecue Show story at our website, lowslowbbqshow.com. You'll find our past blogs, some of our past episodes. You can also subscribe to the newsletter, The Lowdown. It gets emailed out on Tuesdays with a lot of great details about the Carolina Barbecue Festival, including our protein for today's barbecue meal. That, again, has been from Ben's Backdraft Barbecue. He's among the featured pit masters coming up at the festival. Again, April 4th and 5th in Victoria Yards in Charlotte. Tickets now on sale, carolinabbqfest.org. Like I said, we featured Ben on the podcast a couple of times, one episode shortly after Hurricane Helene. And everybody who might not know, Ben's in the emergency services business of fire service in Western North Carolina, near Waynesville, kind of west of Asheville. And he talked a little bit about some of his experiences during the storm and the rescue response during that episode back November 1st of 2024. Go back, give it a listen. We won't get into all those details today, Ben, but I do want to talk to you about how things are going today and in this time of the early part of the year in Western North Carolina. And importantly, how are things going for your business during this period of continued recovery?
Yeah, so obviously, as well as any, normal winter, we're slow January, February. We're kind of back to business as normal, whatever normal is now. And then we're showing a little bit of economic impact here in our county because Interstate 40 is still closed. So I'm kind of excited to see where business is going to be coming back to once Interstate 40 opens back up. But we are seeing a little bit of traffic going to Cherokee. We're on that Highway 19 going into Cherokee, and we got some real big news coming up in March. We're looking at a brick-and-mortar location we're going to try to open up in March 1st in the Waynesville community as well.
Wow, fantastic. Hey, way to lead with the big news. So tell us more about that and what that process has looked like for you. So first, where's your location and give us some details on the big opening.
Yep. So it's going to be 3 miles down Jonathan Creek Road in Waynesville, North Carolina. We're going to be halfway in between Maggie Valley and Interstate 40, essentially, on Highway 276. Right there, it's called Jonathan Creek Road. It's a main thoroughfare to Interstate 40. We came across a building that's going to, seat approximately 50 people inside, plenty of room for outside. We're going to be installing. We got a little, we got a J&R pit that we're probably going to be using there along with our TMG pit on a trailer. And like I said, we're hoping to be open March 1st, hopefully.
Wow, that's so fantastic for you guys. So what kind of led you to go ahead and take that leap from the to the brick and mortar? Now I know you've kind of been working in a sort of a commissary type scenario. What's you led to you to kind of take that next step?
Yeah, so I've talked to several business owners. Robbie Robinson down at City Limits, John G's, Garen from John G's, Dylan from Fort Grove, and I've talked to so many people, and also Lewis Donald from Sweet Lou's. And whenever I'm speaking to them, they tell me that I kind of have like low expectations for a brick and mortar restaurant. I guess the biggest thing that kind of woke me up a little bit is I can do so much more volume out of a brick and mortar location and not really suffer so much through the winter like we do now. We're not going to slow down our mobile side of the business. We're just going to slow down one of our units. We actually have one of our units for sale, just because it's not really well suited for our area. It's a really, really large trailer. So we're trying to actually sell that unit, keep one of our units on the road primarily, and do the brick and mortar, as well as, full time as well. So we're shooting to be open Thursday through Saturday. And we really don't expect any of those barbecue lines like you have seen at some other locations, but we just hope to be steadily busy is our goal. And you never know, it may be busier than that, but that's kind of our goal. And the biggest decision that we decided to do that with, we came across a really good deal to lease a restaurant. And the owners want to see a restaurant go in that building. And it actually used to be a barbecue restaurant like 20 years ago. So,
well, for folks familiar with the Waynesville area, what was the restaurant it was previously?
So there's actually two names. It used to be called Eddie's, I believe, is the first restaurant that it was. And before that, it was called Ranger Dan's.
Right. And so as you get ready to open in March, keeping the same Ben's Backdraft Barbecue, what will the theme be like? Will you kind of stick with the fire service and firefighter theme, or is that something you're keeping under wraps until you open those doors up?
Yeah. So no, I'm a wide open book. I can't really keep secrets really well. So I'm going to put it out here like we fully expect to. And I'm really hoping we're open by March 1st. But I'd really like to pay tribute to some of the fallen first responders here in the county that we live in. One of those first responders actually passed away on Jonathan Creek Road, and we want to do a pretty good memorial for that firefighter. His name was Claude Messer. They called him Paul, and he actually was a line of duty death in Haywood County, and we would like to do a pretty nice memorial for some of those folks that have done that, have been in that same situation in Haywood County and been in the fire service. So obviously, it's going to be, I'm going to try to do some fire themed decorations and such like that. But I'd really like to pay tribute to those, fallen first responders, and also kind of some history as well. So have some old black and white photos of some old, where the fire service started in Haywood County. So.
Yeah, certainly that's an admirable tribute to pay there to the folks out in your line of work or former line of work. I'm sure you can't ever take the firefighter out of the guy. Once you've been in the service, you can't get it out of the emergency response world. But certainly a cool thing for you guys to do. As you've kind of navigated the property, acquisition, even whether it's a rental or a purchase, has there been anything that surprised you that, maybe if somebody was trying to kind of go down this path themselves, that they ought to try to look out for?
Yeah, so some of the big ticket items were already done. The previous owner, from whenever it was Ranger Dan's, the hood systems are there. The walk-in refrigerator is there. All the FRP board is up. All the sinks are still there. And if I would have found this building or known about this building before we moved to our current commissary, we would have been there a long time ago, because all the expensive stuff as far as, floor drains and plumbing and the big ticket items, they're all there. Essentially the only thing that I have to absolutely do to this thing is install my smoker in the little smoke shack out back, install a sink, and put some warmers in the back of house and tables and chairs, and it's pretty much, we could be a functioning restaurant with that low amount of investment. But those were the biggest things. Is go ahead.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you found a great opportunity to really kind of a plug and play restaurant scenario to plug your business into something. So, congratulations on a great opportunity. And, there's no such thing as luck. You certainly positioned yourself to do that, already growing a nice business there in Ben's Backdraft Barbecue. And of course, you can find out about the business at bensbackdraftbbq.com. There's a great Instagram and a Facebook following. Let's talk a little bit about that Facebook and Instagram Instagram following. I've noticed you've done a little bit more with some of those live videos. How have you decided to kind of evolve into that, in addition to, posting some of those event locations when you're at the commissary, or whether you're at Asheville, Mission Hospital, or, the Highland Brewery? You're at these locations, but then you're also kind of supplementing that with the video. How have you evolved into that with your social media promotion?
Yeah. So during the storm, I noticed a pretty big. It was a useful tool that we could use at the location we're at now, and there were so many folks that I got feedback from that said, "Oh, I watch your videos all the time," and I was like, "Okay." And I heard a few customers, but then it was like a pretty big percentage of our customers was like, "Well, I'm watching the videos. I'm watching the videos." So we decided to invest into that a little bit and have a little bit better presence. And there's some barbecue joints that are also getting a little bit of monetary involvement from those aspects too. So I was like, "What? We're going to try it and see how it goes." Um, and we've been seeing that we're busier on days that we create videos, and we're slower on the days that it's just text. So that was just a pure key and result area that we decided to expand. And while I've got the time during the winter, we're going to try to do that. And we've also had some people help with social media management too.
Yeah, that's nice if you can build a little bit of that audience, especially as you're working up that brick and mortar perspective. Now, we talked about the big news here, and I let you almost slide by that, but you've got a trailer that's for sale. People that are out there in the world that might be listening, hey, my buddy Jeff out there, we want to get it going. He wants to get a trailer. Tell me about your trailer. What would people want to find in a barbecue trailer, like you got to offer? Or maybe they want to buy it themselves.
Yeah, so the trailer we've got for sale is a 2016 Freedom. Freedom Cargo is the brand, and it's a 38-foot. It's essentially 40 feet of trailer. It's a gooseneck with two 7,000-pound axles, a pretty big water tank, and it's got everything you need to get started with a barbecue business. There's really not anything else you could use it for. It doesn't have a hood system or anything fancy like that. Strictly a couple fridges, a warmer. And if people want to, put the J&R smoker on the back of it as well, I'll let it go down the road as well. But that obviously it'd be a pretty big ticket price. All in, we're talking a little over probably $60,000 to have it as a an all inclusive unit. But I would let it go down the road, with our Beck built smoker for probably $50,000 as well. And it's a really good built unit. It survived, next door to the one that caught on fire. It's actually got a little bit of the vinyl wrap was melted just a little bit on the side of it, but obviously it doesn't hurt the function or hasn't hurt the trailer at all. I just kind of left it as kind of a significance at this point. But obviously if people want that covered up, I could cover it up for sure.
Yeah, well, hey, you let the elephant out of the closet, so it wasn't
Yeah.
the burn trailer. Okay, we got that. We know that's for
Yep.
sure. Sounds like
That's
a great deal. Get in touch with you guys now. Will you throw your recipe book in there and all the knowledge and all that? Will it go along with the trailer as well?
It's just salt and pepper and a lot of work. That's all it takes.
Gotcha. Well, hey, speaking of salt and pepper and a lot of work, I know you're getting ready to kind of gear up for some of that. Now, let's talk now about the barbecue festival again, coming up April 4th and 5th. It's the Carolina BBQ Festival in Victoria Yard. So I ran into you. That's where you and I first met, I guess,
Yeah.
at the 2024 installment. You were down there as an attendee. So before we get into your involvement now, tell me about your first experience. What was it like? How did you enjoy it?
That was my first attendance to a festival of that, size. So
Mhm.
it was excellent. I think if you are a big eater like myself and you enjoy really, really good, to be honest, I don't think you're going to get that well crafted food on that kind of scale anywhere else in the area at all. I mean, you have these guys that have so much experience and knowledge all coming to one location, and there's people that wait in line for Garen's stuff at John G's, every week,
Mhm.
and to have him amongst several other half dozen or more pit masters in the same area getting that level of expertise on. And that, I definitely don't hold a candle to any of those guys that have been doing this for a long time. Like having it all in one location is just mind blowing. It's literally like the Olympics of barbecue in in my sight, but that's just what I personally think. So.
Yeah. Well, hey, so thinking back, what stands out in your memory as the best bite? What did you enjoy most at your experience?
I mean, I got to give it to him. I can't look past Garen's beef rib. He's definitely a meat whisperer for sure. I don't think I can. And number two would probably go to Brian Furman's ribs, and then number three would be the pastrami brisket from
Ooh,
County Smoke. But there's
yeah.
just and it's hard to categorize it,
Mm,
first through whatever. They're just so good and different. Like the cowboy caviar that Dylan was doing. I mean, that's next level stuff. And there's a lot that goes into each item, and for them to just solely focus on that one item, and they hardly probably ever get to do, and perfect one dish.
yeah.
So, I mean, you're getting the best of each person's time and effort all in one location. So,
Yeah, in one bite a lot of times. So again, sticking in the mindset of somebody's going to the festival, maybe for the first time, what would be your advice to them?
come hungry, and also like don't like absolutely fathom yourself on just one, item. Kind of dabble around, hang out for a little bit, and
Mm,
and then kind of go around for seconds, and don't just kill it all at one time. Because I think every single person there, you know, deserves their food to be eaten by the attendees, if you will. So, a lot of people probably can't eat that much, but you know, don't be offended if you have to, say, if you're there with two people, don't be offended if you have to half it with somebody just so you can get a taste of everybody's food.
sure, save room for more, and don't be afraid to try something that's outside the box. A lot of
Right.
people might turn their nose up at Robbie's hash and rice, and ordinarily I would, but I took the big leap of a big barbecue, big boy pants, and man, that was some good stuff. Great to
It
put it in your
was.
mouth. But like you said, this year there's going to be 15 plus pit masters there. There's going to be a lot of food, and I know you're one of them here for the first time. Ben, how did you get connected with getting involved on the pitmaster side?
Yeah. So, the biggest thing I did was just introduce myself to, Lewis Donald, and I already knew Garen from John G's. He's
Hmm.
been, he's kind of really helped us out with just little bits and pieces of knowledge since we started. But I got to meet Lewis, and obviously we immediately hit it off. And after the event was over, I kind of let's go to the Friday night before. I went down, and we stayed in a hotel and everything the night
Hmm.
before. I got to hang out with Elliot Moss um, and Joel Easton and all those guys the night before, and kind of got to see the process of their whole hog operation and pits. And then I got to meet Lewis on Saturday, and just kind of introduce myself, tell him who I was, what I was doing, tell him that I have the same passion of I'm sure everybody else does, of cooking with all wood all the time, and just kind of crafting the best meats we can. But I think really and truly where our relationship, if you will, professionally kind of hit it off was he's a big advocate for Operation Barbecue Relief. And they did a lot of work here in the western part of the state as well.
Mm.
And he helped us out with getting product, and so did Garen and TMG Pitts and all those guys. So, like, I think that's where a lot of the things kind of became solidified, was throughout the storm. We were almost talking, every couple of days or so, and he was trying to get us product and everything. So that's that's the one of the biggest advantages, I would say, of knowing people outside the area, is they can help you in the time of need, for sure. So that's kind of how we kind of hit it off. And obviously I've met Dylan. I've been down to his restaurant as well at Fort Grove and Anderson, and that's not too far from me. And I still haven't made it to Sweet Lou's, but that's on my list.
Yeah, well, obviously you get a little bit of his stuff, his good stuff there at the
Yeah.
barbecue festival, and I'm glad you mentioned Operation Barbecue Relief. Of course, that's one of the charities they support, as well as Hungry Heroes. And again, we talked a little bit about your kind of your experience during Hurricane Helene, and I encourage folks to go back and give a listen to that podcast. And we talk a little bit about Operation Barbecue Relief and just a huge effort. If folks that while we're on kind of that topic, if folks want to continue to support relief and recovery efforts, kind of out in that Waynesville, and then I know it's a little bit east of there, closer to Asheville and up in Burnsville and those parts of the state, Swannanoa, Black Mountain, those areas. If they want to continue to support the recovery, kind of what would you suggest that they do?
The biggest thing that I would really suggest right now is there's a couple barbecue joints that come to mind here locally that kind of suffered some pretty big losses. One of those in Burnsville is Pig and Grits, and the other one is Okie Dokie Smokehouse in Swannanoa. Both of those suffered some damage. Pig and Grits is back up. I would just say any way possible, if it means buying a gift card and not using it, or ordering food. Pick and Grits, I know, does online ordering. People outside the area can online order, and something that we do as well is we can hang up tickets that are first responder meals. Any of those locations, I'll just say shop as local as you can right now, because I know there's a pretty significant amount of businesses that are not going to make it through this year, because they had relied on their sales from October, and we didn't have our October sales at all. I mean, even in Waynesville, where we didn't suffer as much damage as Asheville, the economical impact of Interstate 40 being closed and everything like that, we didn't have an October at all. If anything, it was average at best.
That leaf season being gone really definitely had an economic impact. But fortunately, the spring is coming, and we're hoping for the best of that. And the spring is coming with the barbecue festival, and kind of keeping our mind on that focus here. With your experience and what you did as an attendee, now that you're going as a pit master, what do you feel like are the lessons that you might have gathered will you apply now that you're going to bring a sample to it? And if you've chosen that sample, why don't you share what that is if you've made the choice yet?
Yeah, so I'm probably going to bring banana pudding.
Okay.
And it's something that's been a staple, essentially, 95% of the time. That's the dessert that we offer, just because, we're kind of held up for space, if you will. So that is one of the easiest desserts that we found. But we kind of found that we didn't want to be traditional with our banana pudding, and our banana pudding is super rich. It's very dense. We kind of make it from scratch a little bit. We cheat on some of the ingredients, but we do make it. It takes us 4 or 5 hours a week to make our banana pudding for the week, and we'll make it in a couple different batches. But it's very dense. It's very sweet. It's kind of something that was introduced from my great aunt as well. It's kind of the process that she made her banana pudding, and that's where we went with that. So that's something that we're going to bring, and Lewis really liked the idea. So I was like, cool. It's not smoking anything, but we can offer the sweet treat for sure.
Yeah, and maybe that maybe what you noticed, but since you mentioned it, nobody's brought dessert. You've got all kinds of proteins, and don't get me wrong, I'm like you, I'll eat too much, but nobody has that sweet twist of it. You could get some lemonade or some other vendors, but come with the barbecue. I mean, the banana pudding, Ben, all day long.
Yeah. So and I may be bringing a pit down too from TMG Pits for one of the pit masters that travel from far away out of the area. I told Lewis that it was available, and I hadn't gotten confirmation yet whether it's going to be there, but I've offered to bring some of that stuff just because, it's not a super far drive for us.
Yeah, and you get to experience some more of that barbecue community that I know is also a big part of that kind of behind the scenes. And you mentioned behind the scenes and seeing Elliot sort of on the night before on the Friday night occasion. we've talked about this probably in some previous episodes, but want to remind everybody the big kickoff on Friday is now a thing. You can get a ticket. You can kind of rub elbows with the pit masters, see that process of building the cinder block pits. There's going to be some music. Again, there'll be obviously barbecue food there to enjoy, and spend some time talking with those guys and gaining a little bit of experience from them in their own kind of barbecue journey. And you touched on this a little bit with Garen and how he's helped you and Dylan and maybe some of the other guys. But and just to kind of reiterate things we talk about a lot here, how important is that barbecue community to you, Ben, and your success now, especially as you're getting ready to kind of take a pretty big step in that brick and mortar restaurant?
Yeah, I think that's truly what kind of sets, the barbecue community away from anything else. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of the fire service too. But there's not any of the pit masters that were there last year that are going to be there this year. There's none of them that are, kind of sitting back in their seat and just acting like they've made it. There's always areas to grow and get better. But there's, to be honest, I mean, I truly don't think that there is somebody that is the best, and they don't look at themselves the best. And they're willing to give out that helping hand. And I just continually get blown away by the amount of folks that are willing to, help me out and do this in your restaurant, don't do this. And they don't have, the recipe books are wide open. And really and truly, it just takes a lot of like blood, sweat, and tears just to do this thing, because they know that barbecue is such hard work. But that's one of the biggest things that kind of came across to my mind for sure.
Again, you can gather all that information when you hobnob and rub shoulders or elbows or plates with all the barbecue guys, either Friday or Saturday. That's April 4th and 5th down in Charlotte. And, talking a little bit more about Ben's Backdraft Barbecue, get all the details. You got a great website there, some pictures of your food, the full menus out there. I know we'll see more as the brick and mortar come along. Is love to follow you on Instagram and Facebook as well, and seeing all that good stuff. As you open up, the brick and mortar, you say you'll keep a trailer rolling. You've got the big festival coming up in Charlotte. Anything else that's big on your calendar, maybe for the spring or summer, that's going to be coming festival wise, where people can find you outside of the Waynesville area?
Yeah, so we'll probably kick off, as long as they have it again this year, we'll be at the Appalachian Heritage Festival in downtown Waynesville. And then after that, it's kind of easy going until July 4th. And July 4th will be kind of our festival kickoff in Bryson City and Franklin. So
wonderful. Those are big events in Bryson City. I know I love to visit that part of the world any time of year, but it's always kind of fun to find a cool spot in the hot time of the summer. Getting up at the water in Bryson City is such a wonderful spot. And of course, you can follow you on Instagram. You guys do a great job of keeping everything up to date about events. And I won't lie, I steal a little bit of that. I steal all of it and put it into my newsletter, but I'm spreading the good news about where Ben and his gang is at. So. Ben, thanks again so much for joining us. I want to remind everybody, join the Carolina BBQ Festival April 4th and 5th, Victoria Yards. You can get your tickets now. They're on discount. Listen to the Low and Slow Barbecue Show for your own discount code, and come out and see Ben and all the gang. Ben, thank you so much for joining us again today. We look forward to seeing you in April.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Low and Slow Barbecue Show. Everybody, if you like what you hear, just give us a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast stream. You can share your podcast with our friends. You can visit us on lowandslowbbqshow.com. That's lowslowbbqshow.com. Of course, you can find your newsletter subscription link there and get those dates that we talked about for Ben's Backdraft Barbecue. You can find out more about the Carolina BBQ Festival, all the good things that are coming down the Carolina Barbecue News Pipe. Subscribe at lowslowbbqshow.com. And of course, we now have a YouTube channel. You may be watching this on that channel. Of course, video from the Barbecue Festival and all of our podcast interviews will be live on our YouTube channel. That's Low and Slow Barbecue Show. Thanks to our production team at the Mesh.tv network of podcasts, especially Andrew Moose. He's the man behind the monitors. Thanks again to our guest today, Ben Hooper from Ben's Backdraft Barbecue. Most especially, thank you for listening. Remember, for the best barbecue and the best barbecue podcast, keep it low and slow.